Don't panic, but do take action. Hello everyone! Welcome to Art Business with Ness. I'm Ness and I'm a professional illustrator. If you're new here, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to see more. But right now, we have to jump right into it because this is a serious topic and I have lots to say about it. We have been hearing a ton about AI art lately, and as someone who makes a living with my art, of course, I'm very invested in this subject. AI art, basically what it does is it scrapes billions and billions of images from the internet, photos, art, of course, and many other things like records sometimes even. And what it does is it takes all of that data and mashes it all together to create a new piece of art. It's actually existed for years, and sometimes the results are very weird and kind of horrifying and mangled. That's what we've been seeing a lot in the past few years. But this year, there has been some big advancements for the tech, and now the artwork is starting to become really good, and artists are starting to be very concerned. Nowadays, images generated with AI can be sometimes almost indistinguishable from the real thing, except that it only takes a few seconds or minutes to generate, whereas an artist takes hours, days, or even weeks to create a single painting. Obviously, this is very discouraging and very concerning for artists. We fear that AI might one day replace us, and I just want to address right now, personally, I don't think that this is going to be the case. Just like photography didn't replace artists back in the day when it first popped up. And make no mistake, when photography first arrived on the scene, artists were just as freaked out as you and me are right now about AI art. Another example, people still buy real diamonds and price them a lot, even though with new tech, it's now possible to create a synthetic diamond in a lab for a fraction of the cost. There will always be those who want the real thing and value it a lot more than a copy. And remember that AI can only mash together things that already exist. It cannot create a new original concept or create a new, unique style. As illustrators, our job is to create specific solutions for very complex problems. And this is something that, as of now, still requires a human brain to do. There are already many different types of AI that exist right now, such as Midjourney, DALL-E, or Stable Diffusion. Most of them work by writing a prompt made of different keywords, and then it gives you images for that prompt. Right now, what's happening is a lot of those images will be all wrong or kind of mangled or not really be what you're looking for. So you have to keep changing the prompts, and once in a while you'll find an image that is exactly what you need. However, if you have a very complex situation like a picture book where you have a character that needs to be the same on all pages, or you have very specific interactions and action to represent, it's going to be quite difficult to do this with AI art. So I really, truly do believe that AI art is not going to replace artists. However, that doesn't mean that it's all peachy. There are some serious legal and ethical issues that are cropping up with AI. And since it is new technology, right now our laws aren't really addressing that. And it's kind of the Wild West in the AI art community right now. Some very concerning things have been happening and we need to talk about it. For one thing, as of now, people creating these AI algorithms aren't requesting permission from the artists, photographers, or copyright holders of these images to use the images to teach their AI. They are scraping images from the internet, just taking them. As we artists know very well, just because an image pops up on Google Image, it doesn't mean that we have the right to use it. Companies all around the world need a license from the artist in order to be able to use an image. But that's not what these companies are doing. They are just taking. Obviously, artists and copyright holders are feeling very strongly about this. To my mind, it's no different than art theft. For another thing, right now, there are some complicated copyright questions and issues with the final product, the AI-generated images. Who actually owns the copyright to AI art? Is it the person who wrote the prompt? Is it the person who wrote the code to the program? Is it the artist whose images were used and mashed up together to create the final image? Or is it the machine that put it all together? Since this is brand new technology, right now the law isn't equipped to answer those questions. And so the AI world is kind of a lawless mess right now. People are doing whatever they want with AI generated art. And of course, for people who are just doing it for fun and aren't using the images for anything but personal use, that's not so much of an issue. However, we're already seeing individuals and companies use AI-generated images for commercial purposes, and that's when problems are really going to start to arise. The reason we are talking about AI more and more is because this field has really exploded in growth this past year. The tech has been progressing at the speed of light, but also we're seeing major events and progress being made just in terms of how the artwork is starting to get used. Every month, some new things are happening. So here's a little summary of some of the most concerning things that we've seen happen in the past year. In August 2022, Jason Allen of Colorado decided to enter the Colorado State Fair's annual art contest with an image that he generated using AI. But the shocking thing here is that he actually won. As soon as this news hit the internet, there was a huge scandal. People were obviously outraged that someone who isn't even an artist was able to not only enter the competition, but actually win. It highlighted the need to create new rules in such competition to address AI. Should AI art be allowed? And if it is allowed, should it be able to compete in the same category as all the other art? Most people are arguing that AI really should have its own category, just like photography has its own category, because it's an entirely different beast. In September of 2022, an AI enthusiast named Chris Castanova obtained the first US copyright registration for a work generated entirely by AI. Castanova was inspired by a lawyer friend of theirs, and they decided to try out getting this copyright registration for their AI-generated graphic novel, specifically in an attempt to create a legal precedent for this. He set out to prove that he is the owner of work created by AI. This was a very scary precedent to set. However, in a surprise reversal, less than a month later, the US Copyright Office reversed their decision, claiming that they had not noticed when reviewing the petition that the comic book was created using AI. The US Copyright Office is now taking the hard line that work needs to have a component of human authorship in order to be considered for copyright. And this is excellent news for artists. While AI bros may not care about copyright, big companies certainly do, and when they hire artists in order to create whatever art they need for their projects, they need to know that they will have the copyright to this. Otherwise, they expose themselves to legal trouble, and this is something they want no part of. This ruling makes it so much more likely that companies will keep hiring artists instead of using AI. This year, we have heard a lot more nightmare stories about how AI art is already negatively impacting artists and their careers. Some artists, like Greg Rutkowski, have become, for whatever reason, AI's very first darlings, whose art has been fed into the AI and whose art style is being replicated extremely similarly. Greg Rutkowski has a very unique and distinctive style that used to be quite rare to see around. But now, if you Google his name, you will find a lot of pieces in his exact style that he hasn't even made himself. Some of them even bear his signature. When entering a prompt on an AI like Midjourney, people are entering his name. In fact, his name has been used in over 100,000 pieces of AI-generated art. Greg says, "People are pretending to be me. I'm very concerned about it. It seems unethical." And I agree. Another artist, Simon Stellenhag, says that people are creating AI-generated pieces in his style and selling prints of it. Some of them are even using his name in the title of the product. For instance, Rusty Robot in a Field in a style of Simon Stellenhag, and selling it as that. It enters into direct competition with his own products that he sells. The stories are numerous and very scary. However, the fact that these artists are speaking out and are being heard by some of the largest mainstream media on the planet is a very good sign. We need to keep talking about it so that eventually things are done to limit and put boundaries on it. Now, it is wrong enough to use someone's art against their will with the goal of ultimately replacing them. But imagine doing it to someone who just passed away. Kim Jung-gi was an illustrator and manhwa artist widely recognized as one of the most skilled illustrators of our time. This year, we unfortunately lost him on October 3rd, 2022. He was only 47 years old. Less than 24 hours after his death, someone decided to feed all of his artwork into an AI and generate dozens and dozens of images in his exact style. Of course, this was done without the consent of the bereaved family. This was done so quickly after his death that many fans and artists only learn of his death after seeing this story make the rounds of social media. And of course, it has never felt quite ethical to feed an artist's work into the AI to replicate their style. Artists have been speaking about this for months and months, some even years. However, this story seemed just particularly unethical, and it's just a simply gross thing to do. Kim Jung-gi is recognized as one of the best artists of our time, a true master of his craft. And someone is saying that we can replace him with a machine less than 24 hours after his death, before his body is even cold in the ground. It was so disrespectful to him, to his legacy, and his family. The only silver lining to this story is that because it made us all feel so sick to our stomach, this story did get a lot of attention, and it shone a light to what happened when you misuse AI. It shone a light to how much we need regulations on AI. Lensa AI is a brand new paid app by developer Prisma Labs. For a fee, it allows people to upload about a dozen photos of themselves into the app, and the AI will use those photos along with art generated by real artists who have not been compensated in order to create a magic avatar, a sort of digital art portrait that looks like you. This app has only come out very recently, but it has gone absolutely viral. It seems that everybody from celebrities to your neighbor is using this app to create their magic avatar. Now, I don't have an axe to grind with the individual users of this app. I think it's pretty harmless to create an avatar to use for a social media profile, things like that. It's all personal use. There's really no harm done with that. The big problem here is Prisma Lab, the company. It's one of the very first examples of a company mass monetizing AI-generated art. Lensa is working off of the Stable Diffusion AI, which is technically a non-profit, and that's how they're able to skirt a lot of data privacy laws. They were able to just take it all, scrape the internet, and get everything in it. It includes things like nude photos or photos of gruesome killings, of course, art that hasn't been paid for, and sometimes even private medical records. Now, this AI, which is now open source, is being used by companies to make millions from apps like Lensa. For artists, one of the details that is particularly stomach-turning is that there has been many reports of these portraits generated by Lensa having the remains of artists' mangled signatures on the images. This is a very chilling reminder that these portraits come from real artists' stolen work. Like I said, because these images are being used mostly for personal use, this could be a lot worse, and I think that it's a good thing that this app is going viral and that the problems with it are going viral. It is, again, shining a light on all the problems that come with AI art, and I think it's a good thing that it's happening with an app like Lensa. It could be so much worse, and it will be soon if legislation isn't introduced. The virality of this app is making people talk more about AI, which is always a good thing. Although I've been hearing more and more about AI in the past few months, this week I've heard like 10 people talk about it. People are not even in the art space, and that is different. It's definitely going mainstream now. Outlets like the New York Times, CBC, or the Washington Post are covering the ethical issues related with AI art. This is a beacon of hope. Our plight is being heard. With all that being said, what do we do about AI art? Well, first of all, don't panic. I know that a lot of you are concerned about being replaced by an algorithm, especially the new and upcoming artists are arriving into a world where they have competition from machines. It can be very discouraging. But don't lose hope. There is still a place for artists. the worst thing that you could do right now is give up and stop drawing. Keep creating to show the world and yourself too just how different real creativity is. When it comes to AI art, it's not all bad news. There are some reassuring things happening. People and organizations, such as a group of artists calling themselves Spawning, are already hard at work creating tools for artists to help them deal with AI and hopefully one day be able to opt out. Already, Spawning has a tool available to help artists figure out if their art has already been used to train AI. Their tool is called Have I Been Trained, and you can find it in the description of this video. Another reassuring thing to hear is that most companies are not yet using AI art because there are still very large copyright questions at play here. The people who are already using it commercially are mostly right now individuals, like maybe musicians who need a quick thing for their album cover, or companies like Lensa who are marketing their thing as a fun app for people to create art just for themselves for personal reasons. Individuals and companies that market it like that are more easily able to get away with it. But companies that create products for the public, such as book publishers or manufacturers who create products, these companies are very interested in copyright legality. They don't mess around with this stuff. It is very important to them to have all the necessary licenses and copyrights to be able to manufacture their products. Otherwise, they expose themselves to potential lawsuits and they don't want to have to deal with that. That's why in most illustration contracts, you will see a clause such as this that explicitly states that the illustrator has to promise that all the artwork they will deliver is 100% their intellectual property and that they are allowed to give it to their client. The reason this clause is there is to protect themselves. Right now, the jobs we're seeing slowly disappears are mostly the small-time gigs. If you are doing a lot of work for the tiny local businesses or local musicians, or maybe a small self-published author trying out at their hand at their first book, those are the people who didn't have much budget to begin with and now would be tempted to use AI to cut costs even more. However, when it comes to companies and big corporate clients, they still highly value artwork created by real artists where the copyright situation is clear as day, and also, of course, for their technical expertise in art. I have always encouraged you guys to go after company clients first and foremost. It's the most lucrative way to make a living as an artist. I'm not changing my advice, and in fact, in this AI dominated world, it's going to be crucial advice to keep being able to make a living, as those small time gigs, the low hanging fruit, are going to start to disappear. So my advice and my techniques for going after big company clients are still going to be your best bet to make a living as an artist. And if you are a professional artist that has a good network of established company clients, you should see very little difference in how your career goes, AI or no AI. Since the question of copyrights is still so murky with AI art, I really don't think that companies are going to risk it, at least for now, until these legal challenges are set in stone. They're going to err on the side of caution. One of the only exceptions that we have seen so far is this book cover by real publisher Tor Books, who has used an AI-generated image which they have purchased on a stock site in order to create a cover for a yet unpublished book called Fractal Noise. They claim that they didn't know that the image was AI art when they purchased it for this cover. Since the books are already printed, Tor Books says that they are going forward with this cover, otherwise it would be too huge of a cost for them to reprint the books. However, what's interesting here is the massive scandal that this created. People were not happy about this. There were headlines and it was all around really bad PR for Tor Books. This is important because it's one of the first time that has happened, and the backlash would be enough to scare any publisher that thinks of doing the same. It's only a matter of time before we start seeing some landmark cases go through the justice system that will establish precedent on how we deal with AI art. In fact, I recorded this video just a couple weeks ago during the holidays, and already some lawsuits have popped up. Mid-January, we learned that there is now a class action lawsuit on behalf of artists against Stable Diffusion. This lawsuit is on behalf of Sarah Anderson, Kelly McKernan, and Kayla Ortiz, who have been very outspoken advocates against AI art. This is a class action lawsuit against Stability AI, Midjourney, and DeviantArt, which is really interesting because DeviantArt basically automatically opted in all of their users for an AI program, and there was huge backlash against this. Now they are in legal trouble. Just a few days after that, we learned that Getty Images is suing Stable Diffusion for scraping their images. Getty Images is a stock site, so they sell images, and it is quite illegal to just get those images and feed them into the AI without paying for them. This is really interesting because Getty Images is a huge corporation. They actually have the funds to put forward a lawsuit like that, something which is very difficult for us artists to do. But their plight and ours are actually extremely similar, and this could end up being a landmark legal decision that could help us. The AI world is really a whole mess of a lawless zone right now, but it will not be like this forever. And I have some very good ideas of specific things that legislation could do to protect the public in general, and of course artists in particular, from the repercussions of AI art. If you are an AI enthusiast, you shouldn't be threatened by this because there is a way to build these models ethically, and that's just better for everyone. The first step is requiring permission for data acquisition. I truly believe that legislation should force AI companies to request explicit permission and consent for people to have their art or their images, any copyrighted materials, into AI models. Images and artwork are copyrighted material. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean you can just take it. You have to ask permission, possibly credit as well. And think of how in recent years we have seen a lot of new legislation to protect data privacy. And this is very akin to that. This is the way the world is going. We are putting more and more importance on protecting our privacy online. There's legislation to protect people against wrongful data acquisition and data mining, and similar legislation could be implemented here to protect artists against AI art. Having to opt in to be part of AI models would go a long way to make it ethical. The second step would be to start destroying algorithms that have been taught using data that they have no right to. The tech would still exist, the code would still exist, but the models would be dismantled. They can be rebuilt using ethically sourced data. It is more than possible to do, and just like I said before, that would be better. That would be a lot more ideal for everyone involved, for artists and for people who want to enjoy AI art. Algorithmic destruction is not that crazy of a concept. In fact, it has even already started. The FTC has already been working to destroy and dismantle AIs that were created using private data. So it is not unthinkable to dismantle algorithms like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney and rebuild them using lawful data. And third, the last step, of course, would be to actually compensate artists who are providing images to a lawful AI. Since companies who create AI art models tend to gain billions of dollars by being able to basically generate infinite art, there is really no good reason not to pay the artist whose skill and talent is the very basis of that technology. And I can imagine already multiple different ways that artists could earn money by contributing their art to AI. For example, these companies could literally just hire people in-house full-time to just all day long create different artworks in different styles to feed to the AI. Of course, company could also contact different artists, maybe ones who they absolutely love their specific style, and ask them if they would like to participate in exchange for a license for their artwork. I think a lot of artists probably wouldn't want to do that because it's kind of spiting yourself and cutting yourself off at the knees to allow a technology to be able to replicate your art style, which is your living. But at least, give them the choice if they want to do that with proper compensation. I can even imagine AI companies creating a sort of crowdsourcing website where anyone could just come and upload their images and get a small fee for every images, photos, art, etc. that they upload in. That could be a good way to do it. Maybe artists would want to go on there and put in some of their old art or stuff created a long time ago that's not in their current style, things like that. There are many ways that this could work, but compensation is very important because artists are the ones that built this technology that is now used against us. It feels incredibly unfair. One thing is for sure, AI is here to stay. And I know it's a bit rough right now, but with the proper boundaries and legislation imposed on AI art, I can really imagine a world where AI and artists exist in a begrudging harmony. And you can help make that happen. Be the change that you want to see in the world. Keep talking about AI art and about the issues that you see with it. Like and comment on this video so we can boost it in the algorithm, make more people see it. You can subscribe, of course, if you like. Thank you, by the way. Or go out and create your own videos and posts about the subject to reach even more people and tell them about this. Most importantly, reach out to your government representatives to tell them that this is an issue that matters to you and that it should matter to them as well. Decision makers need to have a lot of information about these issues, and they need to know that this is important to their constituents. Only then will they put forward new legislation to help control AI art. And to this end, the Concept Art Association has actually started a GoFundMe to raise money to go lobby in Washington for a whole year. You can go see all of the details on GoFundMe. I will leave this link in the description below, and they need 270K in order to lobby for a whole year. Right now, this has been going on for, I think, almost 2 months, and we are at 224K. It just goes to show how much we care about this issue. But this GoFundMe has really slowed down in recent weeks, and we are so close to the goal of 270K. So if you can spare even $1, go and donate to this GoFundMe in order to make a real difference. Never lose hope. We can do this together. But until then, that's it for me today. Thank you for being here, being part of the conversation about AI art. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe. We want the most people possible to hear about this. It is so important to all of the art community. Thanks for being here. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.